Welcome, one and all, to the Success Curious podcast. It's your man, Andy, here, and I am privileged to be in the presence of beauty industry royalty. We're going on a bit of a tangent here, team. This is the first person that I've had on the podcast in 60 plus episodes that is an absolute expert in the space of beauty and well-being. Danielle Renee is an entrepreneur of the highest caliber. She is the founder of Bobbie Charles, which is a beauty therapy establishment up in Queensland. She started off in 2015 working on eyelashes and eyebrows. So please, for the love of God, Bonnie, please, Danny, just do not look at mine in any way, shape or form. That would be fabulous. She is an absolute superstar, though, and has gone from strength to strength, growing herself a massive team of people, and has become one of the go-to individuals within the beauty space, especially from those in the medical field that want to know how their products can be used better. So she has gone from being an eyelash expert to a true expert in her field. Danny, it's an absolute joy to have you on the show. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm well, Andy. Thank you so much for having me. So happy to be here.
Oh, look, pleasure's all mine. It really, really is. Now, gang, you're going to want to take some notes on this one because, look, Danny, I don't want to stereotype, right? But especially with men, there's always this perception that ladies in the beauty industry are great at beauty and very little else, right? They're just that silly perception that that those that weren't that good at school end up going into beauty therapy, right? It's kind of like, lads who weren't that good at school end up, going into carpentry or sparky. And there's so much respect out there for those trades. But when it comes to beauty therapy, because there is that superficial perception, there isn't as much credence and credibility given to it, I feel, right? So I'm really interested to really dig into this because having gotten to know you like I have over the course of the last wee while, you are the absolute opposite of what the perception would be. So anyway, before we crack on though, Danny, give us a bit of an MO as to who you are and what got you to this point in your life.
Yeah. As you said, Andy, I'm from Brizzy. For those that haven't met me, I originally based in Sydney, but based in Brisbane now. And I have 2 skin and cosmetic clinics, but I'm dermal therapy background. So as you mentioned, Andy, I started in lash and brow, but I've always had a passion for skin. And slowly went into skin, but I've always had, a business kind of background, so to speak. So have the 2 clinics now in Brisbane, and now I've funneled into I don't want to call it business consulting, it's what I've always called it, but I find what we do at Bobbie Charles Academy is a little bit different. We really work on getting women to have a life where they're really fulfilled in multiple different areas. I don't like to call myself a life coach. I've made too many mistakes for that. No, but yeah, we work on predominantly how to get women where they need to be without losing that fulfillment, which we'll go into that, but I've been through that sort of stuff myself. So dermal therapy background, clinic owner and business consultant, if you'd like to call it that.
Now, team, I don't know if you are watching this episode, you may notice that we have scrubbed up, both Danielle and I, because we are recording on Valentine's Day. So we thought we'd get a little bit romantic. Good luck being romantic as a lad from Derby, but as good as it can get, right? So I put the tux on for said event. And Danielle, honestly, I'm really excited by the prospect of this conversation for a number of reasons. And you're reminding me straight away of a chap, Godwin Hilly, who owns a fashion brand, and he's a tailor, he's a designer. And what I'm instantly hearing from you is the fact that it's Aristotle's master art. It's about the fact that you don't train to become an artist for the paintings. You train to become an artist to become the artist, right? And what the artist brings. And for you, this is the common theme that I'm starting to really, really pick up on. It's not just a case that you're good at bloody sculpting brows and eyelashes and all the rest of it, right? It's what it's delivering to the human that is really, really ringing through for me. And I think that's what I'm really excited for, because I mentioned at the top of the show, team, that we are absolutely in, and I'm not even messing around here. We are absolutely in beauty therapy royalty, because last year you won the Australian Beauty Industry Award for customer service, right? In 2024, this is, which is no small feat when you consider how many beauty therapy businesses there are in existence in the country. It's like an insane statistic. So, it's when I talk about it in this way, and you talk about how you're trying to help women live a more fulfilling life via the vehicle of beauty therapy, was that something that you always set out to do, or is it something that you've discovered since you've been going along the track?
I've always been big on client care, even since before I went into the beauty industry. It's always something that I've analyzed in different industries that I went into. It's just always something, I guess, that's been drilled into me since I've ever been, probably my first job. When you start to work at like, McDonald's and Burger Kings and these kind of things, they do actually teach you that. So, yeah, it's just always been drilled into me anyway. But I think you just always got to look after the clients, no matter what industry that you're in. And sometimes as a CEO, we can get lost in operations and marketing and culture and all of that. So making sure that you're always bringing it back to the client care, because that's what keeps us open. So it is something that I'm so passionate about, like with my team, is just making sure that the clients are always treated like royalty. And when we hear certain things, like somebody came in yesterday to the clinic when I was in, and they said, "Oh, I just love you, Nia," to one of the girls. "I just love you, Nia. Just always feel safe with you." And this girl has acne. And when somebody presents with acne for us, normally they're feeling quite, I don't want to say ugly, but you do. When you look in the mirror and you've got breakout all over your skin, you do feel deflated. And so for somebody to come in with presenting acne and to say, "I feel safe," for me, those words are like, yeah, music to my ears. So it's just always making sure that, the clients get looked after. That's our priority.
Because when we're dealing with things like the skin and looks and so on and so forth, it very much goes to the core of the human that is looking down a mirror, right? I had acne. I had bad acne back in the day. And I felt so insecure. Like, when you're going through that sort of 13, 14, 15, 16-year-old sort of phase, and you're getting friend zone left, right, and center, it hurts. It like genuinely hurts, whether you're a guy or a girl. You look yourself in the mirror and you're like, "I'm gonna have no more luck today." Like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to get taken seriously almost. So it really is a fascinating psychological trip that you guys deal with, that, again, people don't even think about, because we're too focused on the superficial outcome of whatever it is that you're doing for them, right? It's a fascinating little world, this, and then something that I'm becoming more fascinated on when I'm understanding the psychological effects that you have on people to a greater extent. Now, before we crack on, I really need to know what your successful human definition is. And the reason why is because I have this belief, team, as I always say, a little bit like a broken record. Success comes in four parts, being success, connection, influence, and happiness, and all live in an ecosystem where one can't survive without the other. Danielle, what is your definition of a successful human?
Somebody that's fulfilled in multiple areas, I think, because if you're successful in just one, to me, that's not success. I think, having vitality is important.
Vitality. That's a new word for the definition, Paul.
I love it so much. And I use it all the time. Like when I do like the life wheel and stuff, the analysis on my clients, it used to be called health. And I was like, you know what? I class myself as a very healthy person, but am I vital? Do I jump out of the bed and I'm fucking pumped? Excuse my French, to get out of bed and like pump it in the mornings. That's vitality to me. If I'm sitting on the couch and I need to get up, can I bounce off that couch? To me, that's vitality. Like always having an energy like reserve.
Yeah. I love that I love that word vitality. I want to dig into that. So explain to me. So define, if you can, in your words, define vitality.
Vitality, look good, feel good, like external, internal. and be able to have like a reserve of energy to use at any point. So somebody, if we look at the opposite, somebody that's always like burnt out, overwhelmed, dragging their feet around, head down, like you can tell when a person's strong, vital, ready. For me, that's how I would describe vital. Somebody that can like just lift up a room. You know, when someone walks in and you see, it's almost in the eyes. Like you can see vitality in somebody's eyes. They're white, you know, they're alive. Someone tells a story through their eyes. And that's the first place I can always tell in people. And we work with eyes. We do a lot of lash and brow. So when someone walks in, and we're not just giving somebody instant results, we're making them look more vital, which again sends a sign out to the world that I'm ready. So for us, it's more than just lash and brow. It's more than just skin. We're getting humans ready.
Getting humans ready, vitality. I like that word. I don't hear that word anywhere near as much as what I should, I think. That is a cracking word. And it's sort of, and it's interesting because whenever we hear the shortened word for it, you know, whenever we hear the word vital, it's generally, stereotypically, associated with, you know, vital being vital organs and things like that, the absolute necessities of what one needs, right, for survival. But the way that you're talking about it in this instance is being vital for the world, being vital for your for you know, the room, shall we call it, is something that is so, it's almost like it's the opposite. It's almost like it's above and beyond, where your universe is in need of you, not you being in need of your universe. And it's almost like the opposite way that you're referring to it as opposed to how common perception and conception of vital, which is vital organs, the absolute just must-haves, like your heart, your lungs, and all that sort of stuff.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Whereas you're going the wrong way. You're actually going the right way and saying, no, it's not a case of you being vital for your universe. It's your universe being vital for you.
Yes. And it's like you said it, I don't know if this is like spectrum thing right now, but it's like when I think about vitality, I think of a heart, and it's like you are the heartbeat everywhere you go. Like for me, that's like you can be everything for for you. Like it's so powerful when you look at health in that way. You can have all the health. Like think about somebody that's like really healthy when it comes to the gym or whatever, but a lot of them are sluggish. And for me, that's not health. Like you have to be ready. You have to have energy reserved all the time.
I've just taken that is a quote and a half. To be vital is to be the heartbeat of anywhere you go.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
What about your gob? Like, wow, that is mad. And honestly, that is amazing, an amazing way of looking at it. Because when you said, when I asked you to, and you were talking about vital, again, I was really struggling to make the connection properly. But how you've just explained it there, to become the heartbeat of your environment, that is just
Well, we need to, right? I think like, yeah, everywhere
that's
we
big.
go. Mm.
Team, make damn sure that is across the top of your notes page for today, because that is a huge one. We always seem to feel like we need to make ourselves vital for others, like in terms of you know, feeling required almost and feeling needed. That need for validation is always something I know that I've struggled with that for years and years and years, Danielle. I really, really have really struggled with it. But to be able to flip it on its head and say to become the heartbeat of your environment that's tremendously empowering. And I think when we talk about successful human beings, gang, and we refer to how I look at it as a successful human is a human in flow, that means that you are the heartbeat, you are the beat of the drum that is your existence, and you got control of that beat. You really, really do. And I love it. This is off to a ripping start. I like it, Danielle. Very, very good. And you're taking us down a different track, because again, vitality is not something that is widely talked about, to be perfectly frank. So incredible stuff. And it sort of segues us into one of the topics that I really wanted to talk to you about, because we've obviously offline, and we don't need to go into it in great detail with this, but offline, we've talked about about how our past, can alter or can mold or can obviously affect our future. And you are an example of someone that is taken absolute control over their universe and has become the heartbeat of their universe. So it kind of really plays into it wonderfully well. There's a lot of people that will be listening to this podcast that will struggle, that will struggle to really grasp a hold of what we're trying to refer to here, because that sense of control, some people tend to freak out if they're control freaks. They tend to freak out about control. I mean, I was doing a coaching call literally earlier today, and there's someone that is freaking out about the prospect of letting go of an element of control. But the vibe, the energy that I get off you is someone that is absolutely comfortable with their control, right? And you absolutely have control over your control, in a manner of speaking. So tell me, Danielle, like over the course of your trip, because you started this business in 2015, right? That was in its infancy. Tell us what was going on up to that point and what made you get a grip of your own universe.
Yeah, so I'll keep it light. I won't share everything today, but I guess just for relatability, and some people listening may know this already, but as I mentioned, I was born in New South Wales. I was born in Penrith, raised there in the western suburbs of Sydney. So life was a little bit different for me than most. I was raised in a really colourful family. My stepfather was an addict. My mother was not really around either. She tried to do her best, and love her dearly. My dad was around a lot, love him very much as well. But it was just chaotic. It was very unsafe. It was definitely not the environment that I would want to raise any child in. And so I think I got to the age of 15. I was actually left school in year 10. I hated school. Like, I absolutely hated school. But up until that point, it was always elite athletics for me and elite gymnastics. So, 3 or 4 days a week I was training. I went to state and worlds, and I share that with the people listening. So you guys can form a route of where I've come from. When you're in elite athletics and elite gymnastics, it's everything counts. It's all about perfection. It's all about mastery. And so that's where I got that, perfectionism from, if it wasn't already ingrained in my DNA. And so I'm definitely somebody that has now carried that perfectionism through everything that I do in life and business. And I'm still definitely trying to work with that to kind of get rid of it. But it does make me, I guess, as successful as I am today. So I left school in year 10 and I went straight to work. I've always had a really big work ethic, and was kicked out of home actually at not long after I left school. So I won't go too much into that. But yeah, I was hanging out with the wrong people and found party life, quit athletics and gymnastics as you normally do. And then, just one thing led to another, and I ended up in the beauty industry at 28. As I mentioned to you offline, like, I didn't truly find what I was called to do until I was 28. Had an incredible life until then. Kind of lucky to be alive today, like we've spoken about. Like, I just lived such a wild life. But it's all brought me to where I am today. I've seen so much, I've done so much. The resilience that my life has given me is what keeps me in business today, because business is tough, as we all know. So like, I never ever quit. I always fall forwards. Like, I'm always looking for better. I'm always looking for competition, because I was raised in elite sports. So everything was a competition. So I think it's healthy, like it's to have that competition, to have that fire, that passion, that push, so that's, I guess, kind of where I've come from. It's not your like normal sort of things that you kind of hear, but it makes me who I am today. And it was something that I was really actually quite ashamed of when I first started growing up. As I've mentioned to you, it was offline. It was always something that I thought, who am I to actually be in this room and be training other people to do what I do when I've come from where I have. But it was just such a limiting belief until I actually dealt with that. It's not until then that I actually regained my power and I could actually make the difference in the world that I was born to do.
Mm. No, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I want to ask off the back of that. And they always, a lot of people tend to say, and it really does shit me, how some of the best things come from such crazy levels of adversity. And you've had tremendous amounts of adversity over the course of your trip. And it's not like we're special in any sense, because everybody has problems, right? Everyone has issues and everyone has shit going on. But it's how your wiring has allowed you to take that resistance and then build yourself up to be able to provide an equal and opposite resistance in order to be able to grow and build and do the things that you need to do, and not be overawed by all of the pressure that's been brought on you by whatever adversity you've had. I want to ask you about perfectionism, though. This is an interesting one because we haven't really talked about perfectionism all that much on this podcast really either. But you mentioned there how you've been working on letting go of it to a degree recently, but you've also said that drive by always wanting to get better has most certainly contributed towards the level of success that you've had. When has there been a situation or a scenario where perfectionism has been a pain in your ass? Like, when has it been holding you? When has there been a situation where perfectionism has held you back?
No, all the time, Andy. It comes up in all different parts of my life. Like, as I mentioned to you offline, I've been diagnosed with obsessive compulsive disorder since I was a little girl. Like, I remember sitting in, and perfectionism and OCD it's all part of the parcel. And so I remember even as a child, I would be, brushing my hair, trying to get my hair in a ponytail. And if I had bumps, it's not a matter of just having bumps and starting to cry. It's a feeling that you get within your body that it's just, I can't explain. Like, I always try and explain perfectionism and OCD almost like as if you're wrapped in Glad wrap and you like can't breathe. And that's why they say that anxiety and OCD is an anxiety. ADHD and OCD is like in the anxiety kind of family, I guess. But yeah, perfectionism shows up for me in relationship, in whether that be love, whether that be family, whether that be my culture in the clinic. I'm just always looking for like that elite everything, elite performance, elite diet, elite fucking everything. Even when I drive, I'm like, see how like I can be a race car driver, you know, everything's about visualization of like, what's that next level, you know, like it's always more.
Okay. But obviously, though, it's like a double-edged sword, right? It's although there are rough bits to it, there are very much elements to it that then drive you to go bananas with respect to the level that you achieve. And you've certainly done that. And it's one of the it's absolutely going to be one of the reasons as to why so many people look to you now for guidance, both professionally and personally. I want to take a little bit of a 90-degree turn, though, because going back to one of my original points that I made about the perception of the beauty industry and how for women, obviously there's a and you know, for some guys, let's not judge, there'll be a perception of, you know, that it is a serious thing because it contributes to my own sense of well-being and validity and vitality. I'm definitely stealing that word. But outside of the people that use it, there is a huge misconception and perception that it's just a very, very superficial game, right? And I'm sure, and then moving on from that, you yourself being a beauty therapy business owner and whatnot,
Yeah.
I'm sure that you would have had to find yourself compensating from an energy point of view with respect to making sure you get taken seriously, right? Because for those of you that aren't watching the video, and I'll put the links to Danielle's social media handles and whatnot in the show notes. Like Danielle, she's an incredibly glamorous individual, like incredibly good looking. And when you tie those things together, it can become very easy for people to just judge, right? She does beauty, she's good looking, she's probably got that Insta fame bullshit because of the fact that she's good looking. You know, she can't have that much to her, right? Like, it just happens, right? I know that there'll be a bunch of blokes that would think that 100%. So how have you handled that assumption of who you are based on what you are? Because I'm sure you would have had challenges around that.
I know this is going to sound really rude, Andy, but I don't care. I'm just me. It's just, I know the love that I have in my heart. I know the mind that I have. So I honestly don't think about it. I actually get really, again, we had this chat offline, is I get really like confused why people don't like, or people before they meet me think, you know, otherwise, because I know what I carry. You know, I know the heart, I know the mind, I know like all of that. So I get mind boggled. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, it's just, I have so much love to give. I have so much care, so much nurture. So I don't even think about it, to be honest. I just do what I do. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't, you know?
See that, if we could put that in a pill, right? Because you are in an absolute minority when it comes to that. You are absolutely in a minority. And this is what is contributing to a heck of a lot of mental health issues and so on and so forth, is that addiction to perception based upon the way that's, and it's playing out in society via the way that social media is a highlight reel, right? And that's one of those common sayings now. But for so many people, they struggle to get past that. What is it, do you think, either in your upbringing or your DNA, that is just giving you that one-eyed, don't care, like, it's irrelevant to me? It's not even like you get angry. It's not even like you're getting annoyed. It's just not even registering with you, which is incredible. I think that is.
It doesn't mean, Andy, before I move on, anybody listening, it doesn't mean that I don't crave love and I want to be seen and all of that jazz. But you know, somebody once said to me, you can be the, you know, best peach on the shelf and someone's not going to like peaches. It just, you can't keep everybody happy. So I'd rather keep myself happy and all the people I love before I keep all the randoms happy, you know? But to be honest, I've never been asked that question. But when I think about it, you know, if you look at, you know, everything goes back to our childhood. If you look at my childhood, you know, I wasn't seen, you know, I wasn't attended to, you know, I was the parent in my, you know, mother and father relationship. So I didn't have that anyway. I was alone quite a lot growing up. So it doesn't bother me to be alone. It doesn't scare me. I never feel, I'm not going to say never, because there's been a couple of times in my life. I'll probably say 2 times where I felt alone. I never feel alone other than those 2 times. Yeah, I don't know. I'd just rather focus on other stuff.
I love it. And the nuts thing about it is the fact that this is not something that Danny is saying because it's rehearsed and that's what she's saying because she wants you to go, good on you, Danielle. You can tell that this is genuinely a don't give a shit, like, I don't care, a sort of attitude. You know, I'm trying to dig into her a little bit and see if I can cause a reaction. I'm getting donut. I'm going absolutely fuck all, right? And what that shows, though, and what that shows in an entirely positive way, is the fact that she genuinely does not care. And it's never been a care. Now, I want you to distinguish it, because you did sort of correct yourself there a little bit by saying that, you know, of course you want to be loved and, you know, and have that attention. That's a human being thing. But that, if you sort of look at it initially, that could kind of be a bit of a contradiction to a degree. So when you talk about love and attention, what part of it is the part that you do crave, if that makes sense? This is an awkward question, because it's going to be difficult for you to say that I don't care, but I want to be loved.
I don't care what randoms think. I deeply care what the people that mean something to me, I deeply care about. Deeply.
There you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's not like I walk around thinking I don't actually, like, I am very conscious the way I make people feel. Very conscious. However, how they perceive me is out of my control. It's like, I'm such a control freak anyway. That shit I can't control. I'd rather, you know, it's pushing shit uphill.
Absolutely.
You know, just be the best person you can be, and if they like you, they do. If they don't, they don't.
100%, man, 100%. And if any of you want to see an example of that in play, probably go to a reel of mine from late Jan or early Feb, where half the comments are based off my energy being great, and or I'm a cokehead apparently, or everyone's ripping into the fact that my trousers are quite small, which in fairness is a fair observation, because they had ridden up and it kind of looked like I was wearing my 6-year-old's trousers at that one particular point in the auction call, right? And the thing is, we can all get affected, and I'm going to ask you this in a second, Danielle. We can all get affected by feedback. Not necessarily, and it could be because of the content of the feedback and what it is that they're giving feedback to, but it could also be just because of the fact that we just get caught in the wrong moment. We get caught in a vulnerable time in the day, in the week, in the month, where you've had a load of shit news, and then all of a sudden one thing's just been the straw that broke the camel's back. Now, Danielle, like, has there been a time where you felt particularly vulnerable and then copped a bit of resistance that, for whatever reason, you just not felt as equipped to be able to deal with?
Absolutely. Like my whole life, like we all go through it, right? Like heaps. I can't even like hundreds of times throughout my life. All the time. I mean, I put myself out there a lot. I want to be different. I want to be unique. I always have been. Like, I don't want to be the same as everybody. So when you have that kind of persona, I guess, people are always going to judge you, or people, and that's maybe why I am so resilient to judgment, is because I've had it my whole life anyway. But you mentioned a word there, Andy, about like vulnerability. I'm going to go back to vitality, because when you've got energy reserve and you're looking after your health and your mindset, like, you're not as vulnerable.
True.
So when you're vulnerable, it like, you know, and I don't want to say vulnerability in a bad way, but I am talking about it in a bad way. If you're not as strong as you normally would be, like, we're getting shit emails, messages, social media all the time. So if you pick up your fucking phone, Andy, and you look at Instagram when you're vulnerable and you get feedback that you don't like, that's your fault. Because you made a choice.
Oh, you stumbled across something else here. We're going to go down a different track now, because, again, so I like this. This is awesome. So right now, there's a big thing around vulnerability, especially in chaps, where we are sort of being nurtured by society to become more vulnerable, right? We're seeing vulnerability used as a positive thing when it comes to connection and whatnot. And from my point of view, in a business sense, and I've got this in my book, I came up with this phrase during COVID, that from a business sense, vulnerability is the key to true professionalism. Because if you can own what you don't have and own who you are not, then it's very, very easy to have all of the stuff that business people say you should have, like transparency and integrity and authenticity and all that. You can't be authentic without being vulnerable, right? Because otherwise you're not facing up to your own inadequacies of whatever it is that you're struggling with. But what you're saying here is, it's really, really good, because in order to be able to own our vulnerabilities, we need to have that foundation of strength in order to handle them when they appear. And that is something that I don't think society is cotton on to yet. I think this is something that perhaps needs to be explored. And the geek in me is going bananas about this right now.
I love seeing you wind up.
So let's talk about this. Now, you talk about healthy body, healthy mindset in order to be able to handle the vulnerable moments. And I know it sounds easy from a physical point of view, but from a spiritual point of view, or from a mindset point of view, what are the sort of things that you do when you know you're in a vulnerable patch, in order to make sure that you get through that little bumpy road as well as possible?
Nowadays, it was very different back then, but nowadays, like, in the past few years, and especially in the past year, is just being more silent. I can talk until like with underwater with marbles. But if I'm feeling more vulnerable, normally when you're vulnerable, you talk more, right? You know, when you're anxious, you talk more. Whereas nowadays, I find that it's better to talk less and feel more. So, because then I can feel, why am I feeling vulnerable? Why am I feeling like not as strong as normal? Like listening to the room and feeling into the room. And, you know, it comes down to emotional regulation, right? You can't regulate your emotions if you're just, you know, going 100 miles an hour. So for me, that's what it is. It's like listening more to my body and being a bit more silent, which doesn't come naturally to me. It's a constant effort.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah. But I like it that way. So, now with respect to that, you mentioned that being able to sit in your emotion and whatnot and feel your emotion. I think that this is perhaps a skill that we could all get a little bit better at, because what you said before is absolutely spot on. When we get anxious, we tend to jabber and go at a million miles an hour. And you know, and a lot of the time you see it in your kids, but you see it in plenty of adults as well. When you call them out on something, whether it's a mistake that they made at work or something that they shouldn't have done at home or whatever it is, the instant human reaction is to try and justify, vindicate, absolve themselves of responsibility, generally by talking at the subject, right? One thing that I learned from when my old man passed away was that if you just allow yourself to feel upset, then the upset comes and goes way quicker. And as soon as you've accepted that it's okay to be upset, then everything just slows down for a sec, to the point where, because you've given yourself permission to be upset, it allows you to then go crack on with whatever it is you're allowed to do. I had this, and if we were to bring it into a business context, someone that is just started out on their business development path and has sort of said, you know, I get really, you know, I get really sort of anxious, and I know that if, you know, if I lose one, then it's really going to upset me, and I want to try and get better at that. And I went, oh, whoa, whoa, hold on. You don't want to get better at losing. That's not a good idea. Like, and right, Daniel, you could, I hope you agree with this. Otherwise it's going to make me look silly. Do you agree, right? This whole thing about, you know, rejection's good for you and eating rejection for breakfast and all this sort of 10x sort of theory where you got to take rejection, man. And there's all these Americans that go banging on about the fact that rejection's great. Do you think that rejection is a good thing? Or do you think that it's something that we just have to deal with?
I think it's just something we have to deal with. It's just life.
Yes.
Oh, thank fuck. I was like, I'm going to tell you the truth anyway, and hopefully you still like it. But that's honestly what I'm like. I don't really care about rejection. It is what it is. It's just a part of life.
But the thing with it though is the fact that we're allowed to be annoyed. We're allowed to be upset. But there seems to be this thing around success that we need to get rid of, and it's this is one of the key pedestal things that puts success on a pedestal, is that sense of, you know, because lots of people that are on this sort of riding this wave of success, and they've got all their, you know, Lambos and all those sorts of things, and that they've probably hired, and they say that, you know, I eat rejection for breakfast, it makes me stronger, blah, 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 blah. But none of them say, you know what, it pisses me off. And I'm allowed, and you know what, it's cool to get pissed off, because it means you've got standards, right?
And your feelings, right?
Yeah, it means you give a shit.
Yes.
Right? It means you give a shit. So
Absolutely.
I hate it when, I can't stand it when,
Yeah.
when these leaders keep fucking banging on about, you know, you've got to give a shit about the outcome, and it's got to sting if you don't win. It's got to sting, because otherwise how the fuck are you going to learn from it?
I think it's an ego thing, Andy.
Oh, but the thing is, this is where ego, this is where ego breeds delusion, right? And I think delusion is something that, and it ties into how people perceive you. I would suspect, not that you give a shit, which is awesome, but that deluded sort of assumption that I'm better than you because I do this and you do that, and my perception of what you do is less adequate than what the perception of what I do is.
Oh, I hate that, Andy. Like, I'm very much like everyone is equal. I don't care. Like, I probably because of the upbringing that I've had, and I've had a lot of money in my time, and I've also had fuck all. And I just think money doesn't, when people say, oh, if you say, I think you actually said it on one of your podcasts. So if I'm going against you, please still be my friend. But someone said, if you say somewhere, I heard it, if you say, I know where it came from. It wasn't you. But they said, anyone that says money doesn't buy you happiness has none. And I was like, that's a fucking lie, because I've had a lot of money and I've had none, and it doesn't. It does not buy you happiness. You can get good psychologists, 100%. You can get good medical. You can get all of those things and buy fake friends. But I can tell you right now, like, you could take everything from me, my car, my beautiful home, the gorgeous flowers, everything in this house, all my diamonds. You cannot take away from me the feeling that I have in here, which is home. That's the happiness. That's the success for me. Like, you can't. No one can take that. And that's why I'm so big on working on your mindset and working on your education. Like that, nobody can take that from you. And I train my team at Bobbie Charles Clinic, like inside and the academy side, but both of them, I train them both in the fact that when they move away from Bobbie Charles, the shit that they're learning, it's with them for life. They can go anywhere and say, hey, look at your business model. I can see this, this, and this, and they're just an employee.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. This has gone in a couple of different directions as normal, gang, to what I was expecting. But I think for your notes, I think what you can take from that is the fact that you need to be able to give yourself permission to feel whatever it is that you feel. Because the more you deny it, the harder it gets. And so, in what Danny's just said then about the fact that no one can take away what you know, no one can take away who you are. And it's just so incredibly powerful in the sense that you can always bang on about the things that you haven't got. You're much better off banging on about the things that you have, and really owning that is what you have, that is who you are. And again, it's something that I've struggled with, and it's something I've mentioned on the podcast before, when ownership is something that is really internally anyway. Ownership is something that has been a massive challenge for me. But when you do take ownership, my word, it becomes a different game. It really, really does. It really, really does. And it's something that Danielle has really sort of intrigued me is being that sense of understanding, that self-discovery piece, which, again, lots of people talk about self-improvement and self-development. But from your point of view, give us an idea, based on your own experiences and the experience of that you sort of impart onto people. I believe there's a difference between self-discovery and self-development. Like, from your side of things, what does it mean to go on a bit of a self-discovery? And has there been, because from your side of things, when you've gone on a path of self-discovery, has it all been smooth sailing, or have you found some shit bits?
Fucked. It's really, really bad. It's yucky. And that's why most people don't do it, right? But I have to. Like, I'm very passionate about like breaking that DNA chain. But going back to what you asked is the difference between self-development and self-discovery. I would probably say the self-discovery has to come before the self-development, because for you to be able to develop and get the tools that you need to go deep to find out what you need first. However, I wish I knew that when I first started on my journey. But everyone does self-discovery. Like, if you look at the Dale Carnegies, if you look at Tony Robbins, all of these kind of people, sorry, not discovery. Most of them are doing self-development. Tony's doing, I guess, yeah, it depends what courses you do. But I think if I could, give anybody some tools out there, is like thinking about what you actually need as a human being, male or female, what you need in your life at that time before you then go out and, start to work on the tools to get you where you need to be. You need to go inwards first. It's a part of our job roles, especially for CEOs.
Absolutely. Now, before I let you go, there's one more topic that I really want to talk about, which is the whole topic of boss lady. I'm not going to say the B word, because it's normally called boss bitches, but I'm going to say boss lady, right? Because you have an undeniable level of boss lady energy, right? You do. And I love it. I think it's incredible. I think it's amazing. But you've, in your own experiences, you've felt that that has hindered you at various times, maybe in different parts of your life, right? And I know that there will be a number of women, and I see it in auctioneering land, where women really struggle to own their femininity in a boss kind of way when they're trying to call an auction. They end up trying to be alpha about it, which is just weird. And it just doesn't look right, and it doesn't fit them. Whereas being a true boss lady is to really be super strong in your feminine as well, because let's face it, even gangsters are afraid of their mum when they're in trouble, right? So now, from your point of view though, what challenges have you faced when it comes to having that boss lady perception, and what are the things that you're working on right now within yourself to help you to feel better with that? Because you have mentioned in passing that sometimes it's pissed you off, or you felt that it's held you back.
There's a few parts of that question, but how has it challenged me being boss lady is, I think having brains can be challenging. Like, you need to be around people that are deep thinkers, and you need to be around people, well, I'm going to, not you, me. I need to be around people that are deep thinkers. I need to be around people that, are critical thinkers and just thinking outside the box. Like, I can't have superficial conversations. It just doesn't work for me. So I guess that's a challenge in itself, is, you can't sit in certain circles. And, it's challenged me, as I've spoken about, in relationship, because I am a really strong, independent, smart woman. It does challenge me, because, it mostly challenges men, I think, as we spoke about. I'll share what we spoke about the other day is, somebody said to me, "Are you too masculine?" And I thought, fuck, okay. Like, I think that I'm very nurturing, I'm very kind, I'm very soft, if I'm allowed to be, and if I'm given the space. But if someone's not there, I'm going to step in very easily, because I can. Why would I not? And for me, femininity and, masculinity is thrown around so much these days that I think it's really unhealthy. That people are trying to be one or the other. I think the perfect synchronicity is like where you want to be. Like, how can I drop into my feminine and be sexy as fuck, but then also get into my boss mode and be real? I like to confuse people. It's like when I'm at work, I'm like, I can deliver a piece of feedback very well and then laugh at them and still hold them. Like, that's what I think, that's what people need, is to have all parts of you, not being one or the other. And when you can learn how to gauge that from a leadership perspective, that's where the power lies.
It's a massive game changer. That what I really like is that you just said one little sort of in passing line where you said why wouldn't I? If there's a situation there to be handled, and you see that someone on the opposite side of the table or whatever isn't handling it, why wouldn't I? If I can, if it's within me, why wouldn't I? Why would I not handle a situation that's there to be handled if I know I can handle it? And I think that what you said is absolutely spot on around, guys, this whole masculinity, femininity, toxic masculinity, Andrew Tate bullshit, right? It's one of those ones, it's just an overreaction of the worried, the concerned males that are out there, right? They're shitting themselves because they're all of a sudden feeling like their existence, their validity, not vitality, their validity is being brought into question. And because they're not absolutely assured of their energy, and I'm not just talking masculine energy, but because they're not comfortable in whatever energy they have within them, and you can apply this to work, relationships, business, friendships, whatever it is, then there is clearly an insecurity there that hasn't been dealt with in some way, shape or form. Now, what it is, God knows, right? And neither Danielle or me are psychologists in any way, shape or form. But what is very, very clear in Danielle's experiences, and it's something that I've experienced as well, and sometimes women get a little bit, not they don't get weirded out, but they sometimes feel that, from my point of view, because I'm totally comfortable going whichever way you want to rock and roll, they sometimes get suspicious that it's just a play, right? That it's just an attempt to do something ulterior, right? There's a different motivation behind it. When in essence, team, we're all human beings. The bits and bobs came after we were made to be, right? We were all born, if it's sort of biologically speaking, we all started as an egg, right? And then the bits came afterwards. Right. So what Danielle is saying here, for those ladies that are kicking around out there listening, that are really struggling to find their place, or they've found that they feel out of place because of their inherent abilities as a human being, taking them out of the standard box. What Danielle is saying here, and this is the beautiful example that Danielle presents in everything that she does, is that why the fuck not? If you as a man, or if you as a business, or if you as a leader, or if you as a job, if you can't handle something, I'm going to handle it, right? And why the hell wouldn't anyone, man or woman? And it's just like, I don't know whether you could tie this in with, the whole political correctness and the worry of causing offense and all that sort of stuff. And lots of people talk about that in a sense of, again, just the cause and offense, you upset me sort of thing. Whereas right now, how we're talking about this is in a way of life will progress a lot better if people just handled shit if they knew they could.
And I think if they stop walking on eggshells, I think that's the thing in today's society is everyone's walking on eggshells and everyone's, has to be something that they're not. I think it's just go on being you, and everyone will be like live a happier life, I think, and know that everybody is human. And it's just
so counterproductive.
It's so tiring.
It is counterproductive. It's just, even if you look at it in a pure economical sense, eggshells cost you money. They cost you stacks of money, either because you avoid fixing things that are causing you, that are hemorrhaging income out your business, or they're causing you HR problems, or they're stopping you from making decisions that can advance your business ridiculously. Eggshells cost you money. There you go. There's one for your notes, team. Team Danny and Andy just, ripping out the quotes today, which is pretty phenomenal. Now, Danielle, I am conscious that I've kept you on conversation for way too long, and as much as I would love to have this conversation with you for hours and hours and hours, we have to call it a day because you and everybody else have got to go get shit done. So one final question before I let you go, though, and it's our standard final question. You've got, I'm sure, things that you've got to achieve and want to achieve and wish to achieve. And having done a lot of self-discovery, you would understand the things that you perhaps need to gain in terms of skill, in terms of whatever it is, emotion, whatever the case may be. So what is the one thing, if you were to have one thing that you need in order to go to that next level of success and progress, what would it be?
Health and connection.
That was about as succinct an answer as it gets there, team. She talks for ages, but when it comes to a question where it's very definitive.
It is, yeah. It's very, I think that there are probably two things that I have sacrificed over the past decade. So for me, I know that it's certainly health and connection, because when you have friendships, relationships, cheer squads, you can do so much more. And I think the way that society's gone in now is we're just doing everything alone, and it's not getting us anywhere. So I think for me, it's like working on relationship, working on, whether that be love, whether that be family, whether that be friends, and health.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. And that is actually an incredible point, team. The whole self thing is counterproductive because we're all limited by our own independence. So what Danielle has identified there is something that the whole world could get better at, in all fairness. Danielle, it is an absolute joy to have you join me on the Success Curious podcast. My God, am I happy that I threw a Hail Mary and that you responded, because this has been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so, so grateful, and I feel privileged to have had you join me on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much, Andy. Chat soon.
Team, I know that I've got what, 2-3 pages of notes here. I'm sure that you will have had stacks yourself. I'm about to go put some of these quotes onto some t-shirts and sell them on eBay. Until next time though, my friends, make sure that you stay safe, healthy, happy. Thank you so much once again for joining us on the Success Curious podcast. Go find my book. I've got to keep plugging my book, otherwise the publisher's going to kill me. It's available on Amazon and it is of the same name, Success Curious. Until next time though, my friends, look after yourselves and we'll speak to you again soon.